The first question is exactly where were you born, and exactly in
Mm-mm.
what part of the Philippines were you born, and
Mm-mm.
how was that part of your country about people and languages?
Okay. So I was born in Davao City, so it's in the southern part of the Philippines. So people-wise, I mean, I think like overall, like we're like a progressive city, and we use mainly we use like the Bisaya dialect in our everyday conversations. But for schools and businesses, we use Tagalog, we have our Filipino language and English. So yeah, so every day we encounter all those three.
Yeah, this situation maybe makes Filipino people very, very capable of learning new languages more
That's
quickly,
right. That's right.
probably.
That's right. And because too, like, in the Filipino and even like in our dialect, we have a lot of words that are derived from Spanish
Yeah.
words. So like I remember like, when we count, we have that version of we say uno, dos, tres. So we understand that what uno, dos, tres means,
Yes.
and we get la mesa, baño. So each time I read that, it's like, oh, we have the same thing. We have cuchara, tinidor. That's what we use in our dialect. Kuchara, tinidor, and Nino. We have like, Philippines is a predominantly Catholic country. So
Yes.
we have like the Santo Nino, and we have the Santa Maria and all those things.
How did you study English in the school systems in the Philippines? How is this the methodology?
Yeah. So I think I remember back then when we were in pre-K, like we have this, like majority of our subjects, like, like the reading, the math, we have all of those in probably like the teachers speak in English. So it's like kind of English, and then can explain it in sometimes in Filipino or in our dialect, but majority of the subjects are taught in English. So
Mm.
you kind of like at that age, just kind of picked it up. Yeah, and I think over the years, I remember like in school we only have probably like two subjects that are taught in Filipino or Tagalog,
Ah.
and the rest are taught in English. I mean, unless like they need to explain something thoroughly, they would use our dialects or Filipino. But I remember growing up, most of the subjects are taught in English, and also like written materials. We have to pass homework,
Yeah.
or like with our the test
Ah.
questions like are in English. So we kind of train most of our training in school is basically in the language of English.
Yeah. That explains many things for me. I
Yeah.
didn't know that. Okay. You don't have an English subject like a course like a subject. You
We
you
we
learn in
probably
English.
that's right. We probably have like a read. We call it English subject, but it's more like for reading, writing.
Hmm.
But most of the subjects, when they are taught to us, they are in English. Yeah. Like all
Oh.
the textbooks we use for those are in English. The tests we have are written in English.
What happened after that? So when you left the school, what did you do?
So I graduated and then from a nursing degree. So but before that, like you have to make money just on the side while waiting for the test results. So I work as a tutor for Korean students. So can I use my knowledge with the English and teaching young kids from South Korea to, like just the basic conversations and how to improve their conversations. And yeah, and I think that also started sparked my interest in language learning, because it's interesting like how people can actually learn multiple languages by using like, basic starting with the basic stuff, right? And yeah, and then from that I double into different jobs. I work as a nurse, but it was just a short while because like I dislike being on a night shift, and then I
Um,
shifted to different hospitals, and eventually decided to try working online, so become a virtual assistant to entrepreneurs based in the US, and it kind of you know boost my self-esteem when it comes to writing, because they ask me, do you write? And it's like, sure, I write. And then I don't have any professional
yes.
background in writing aside from school stuff, but then they like what I wrote, and it's just for me like, oh, I can actually make money from working from home. And I'm that time I make more money working from home, less hours than I work in the hospital. So I did that for a long time before I decided like, oh, I kind of miss doing the nursing job. So I went back to working as a nurse, but in a school setting. And at least I only have to work like 8 a.m. until 5. And then that time, like, I miss traveling. And then it was like, before becoming a school nurse, I'm able to work and travel where I want, when I wanted. So I submitted my resignation and set my mind off, like, I'm gonna make my money from home, through my laptop, and we're gonna travel wherever I want. And I started also eyeing for South America at that time. Like, my plan was to going around the Philippines, go around Southeast Asia, and then teach English there for a short while, was saving up, and then explore South America and go from there wherever I wanted. So
Wow.
that's why I also like, oh, I'm gonna learn. If I want to go there, I have to learn the Spanish. So the
Ah.
Spanish language. So that started it all.
Then you made a move, a very important move in your life.
Hmm.
Yes.
That's
So
right. That's
how
right.
was that part of your story?
So it was like it's like kind of like a bittersweet, right? So sweet because like at least I'm with my husband now, who is then my fiance, but also like it was a challenging move because I've never been away for so long from my family, because I think the longest I've been away is like probably 2 weeks, but it's just only for for a leisurely travel. So it's not like I'm going to live there permanently. So it's quite a challenge for me because like we are a close knit family, and it was the first year. It's a lot of adjustments. I remember before, like they say that they have a joke around it that once you come here to the U.S., like people sometimes like talk too fast. And I remember exactly when I first got here. It's kind of like really a culture shock. Like even for me, like I speak in English and I can understand in English, but it seems like when they talk, like I feel like like it seems like a foreign language to me.
Oh,
It's just
really?
like I was like, oh my gosh, like I don't understand them. And
Wow.
that's why I get to the point like I don't want to go outside anymore because like initially like they would have this small talk start like, oh, good morning, how are you? And
Yes.
I know it's just like a small talk, but it just I was so scared before because I like, oh, what if I don't understand? I have those like, irrational fears. And
Oh.
I remember like there was a funny incident. So there was this lady who is delivering a package, and I guess in my mind it's just so much fear, right? She's basically asking, what's your last name? And what I'm hearing is this your first time? So of course, like I answered yes. I was like, and she was like, last name, yes. It was like, it was so painful to think about it, but and I was like, oh my god, it's so embarrassing. And probably she repeated that like 3 or 4 times, and finally got, oh, okay, she's asking me for my last name.
Yes.
And it was so fearful of talking to people here, except for my husband. Even like when making appointments. So I'm so scared because when I called up and oh my god, like it's like oh my gosh, this speaks too fast. Like I know in the Philippines we talk in English, but it's not this fast. And like sometimes it makes me anxious when the person in the other line would ask like I'm sorry, what was that? So I was like, oh my god, they don't understand me. And I was like, I feel so silly. It's like, why don't they understand me speaking English? And but over time, there was actually a period that I avoided all the phone calls overall. So I would just pass everything. So my
Mm.
husband's like, oh, you do this, you do that. And my husband said like, no, in order for you to survive here, you have to learn to do that. And I think it's just really in constant exposure that you will really learn and adapt. Because now I make the appointments now, I make all the cancellations, I talk to people
Mm.
every day. And like there's still like a little bit of fear, like what if they don't understand me? And for me, I learned that if they don't understand you, they can just say, I'm sorry, what was that? Or you can't understand them. I
Yes.
mean, it's totally okay to ask them to repeat what they said.
Yeah.
There's no shame or embarrassment in asking, what was that again? I'm sorry, or anything, right? And it's just really my initial fear, and it took a while for me to get, to the comfort level of where I am right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So first of all, You went to the US. Why exactly?
Yeah, so my husband is from here, and that time like we're engaged, and for me to get here, so we process my visa because basically like he's here, so we move here to be with him.
Okay. What's the plan for the next years f for teaching your kid? So you want him to be a multilingual person, a speaker, yes?
Yeah,
And what
that's
are the
right.
languages you're planning for him?
So right now, we're doing Spanish. So it's kind of tricky, right? Because sometimes, like when I call my parents, they talk to him in. Sometimes they talk to him in our dialect, but of course he doesn't understand that. So because like before, I started teaching him Filipino, but here, the more it's more common to, it's more practical to use Spanish than the Filipino. So next year I'm planning to continually build his Spanish skills, but at the same time also will have to start doing some Filipino, maybe do some like with with someone who would do like online a short online class for Filipino, because at least I guess like from there on, if he starts really understanding the Filipino language, once he gets older, maybe I'll introduce the our local dialect, because once he goes to the Philippines or visits the Philippines, he will most likely use or there's more use for the Filipino language, because no matter where he is, people can understand him.
Well, based on this experience homeschooling your kid, you decided to create a book, yes, and that
That's
you're
right.
selling in Amazon.
That's
So,
right.
how is that project?
So it was actually it started off just a fun project. So I started off like creating just like a mock sample. So I was showing it to my husband like, oh, I'm actually thinking of making a language book that looks like this. And my husband said like, oh, why don't you make something like that? And so I looked up, oh, I can actually do that too without owning inventory, by just doing through the Amazon KDP, Kindle Direct Publishing program. So that's what I did, and then I watched some tutorials, and now I can use Canva to do the illustrations part and all of that, to make sure that those illustrations are for commercial use. And yeah, research, and then I put it in Amazon. I didn't have really like high expectations from that. It's just more like a fun project for me. And I was like, oh, why don't I just put it on Etsy as well? And actually have really good success with Etsy platform
Mhm.
than Amazon. And from Etsy, I got, like email from a lady who would like to display my book in her boutique.
Oh,
And it was like, it was amazing. And I'm so like, so surprised to like, actually a lot of parents, a lot of Filipino parents overseas who are actually looking for books like this, because they said like, I've seen that a lot in, in similar books, that, oh, this book doesn't actually talk about the Filipino in the most basic sense. As a kid, you won't talk about X-ray or something like that.
yeah.
You would really start from the basic words. And so I said like, oh, I'm gonna pick up, I'm gonna use like basic words that kids would definitely use. And yeah, from that, and yeah, I was so surprised, and that also inspired me to make a Bisaya version of that. And because for me it's like, oh, if there's a Tagalog, why not do the Bisaya dialect? And I guess for me too, like it created like a bigger purpose, like
Yes.
I know like a lot. I before, like I only read that in stories, but as a parent, a Filipino parent based overseas, like you want to teach your kid about your culture as well in the
Yes.
Philippines, and really raising awareness with that, with the kids born or raised abroad. And for me, like I find I am grateful that this book is able to do that in some ways. And
Yeah.
it kind of inspires me, give me ideas like, oh, why don't I do this and do that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, just like
What would you say that are the most like helpful strategies to learn a language, to improve in a language, and to master the language? Because it's something that you've done through your life.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right. I think it's really about constant exposure to it. Like, it doesn't matter if you like, like, don't just be afraid to, even if you don't understand it from the start. Because I remember as a kid, I don't totally understand like what the show is all about, when it's in English, like, but I turned the captions on so that I like turning the captions because I understand like, okay, that's what they're saying. That's what they're saying, instead of just kind of like, basing the actions, basing the script based on the actions. And but yeah, it's really about the exposure. And I remember back then, someone advised me like, if I want to improve my English, I have to listen to materials in English, like not just like typical English, but really like from native speakers, so I can pick up like the lingo. So, so I started listening the podcast, different podcasts, and from people from the US. And, like you have to make sure too that you're listening to people who are, like kind of, if you want to pick up the lingo, like listen really from people whose language is from, who that is really their native language.
So what would you prefer? Are you able to speak a little bit Spanish?
I think I can speak in Filipino.
Okay. Okay. So, Joann, yeah, I would like to learn something in Filipino, to say a phrase or a word. I
Okay.
think I can say. So, teach me that,
Okay.
please.
You can say, kumusta ka?
Kumusta ka?
Yeah, it's kind of like sound like como esta, right? So you
Oh,
know
yeah.
what it means.
It
Yeah,
sounds.
como esta, kumusta ka? It's like it's how are you?
¿Cómo está ka?
That's right.
So,
Yeah,
¿cómo is the same Spanish como?
exactly. That's why I remember like when you say como esta, so it's like how are you? Say kumusta ka? It's like how are you? It's the same way.
Oh, really? It's ¿cómo está ja? It's just ja
That's
is a word?
right. It's like, yeah, it's you.
You.
Ka, you. Si kumusta ka? It's like, how are you?
Ah, so it comes at the end of the
That's
sentence.
right.
¿Cómo está ja? Ah, okay. Okay. And how do you say thank you in Filipino?
Salamat.
Salamat.
That's right. If you want to say thank you very much, you say maraming salamat.
Maraming salamat. So salamat
Yeah,
is
marami.
thank you,
Just
and
thank you.
maraming is very much. Okay.
That's right. Like maraming salamat.
Maraming salamat. Okay.
That's right.